Thanks, Aaron. In about half of the nation's 50 state capitals, there is a ministry. It's called the Capitol Commission. It serves as a spiritual support for legislators, lobbyists, staff members. Joining me now is the national president for the Capitol Commission, Dr. Brad Harbaugh, and Pastor Scot, who's the minister serving in Austin. Right. Glad to have you here. Glad to have you here in Central Texas as well, kind of taking a tour of the various states.
Absolutely. It's my privilege to be here today, represent this ministry, which is very unique in that we are non-political, non-lobbying. We stand in the midst of our legislators, loving on our legislators, ministering to them. That's a priority to God, by the way, who calls all people to pray for all of our legislators. Certainly we'll pray for the ones we vote for. We often neglect the ones we don't, but God calls us to pray for every single one of them. And so that's our priority. God is a God who's instituted government, and he's called us to really focus on leaders. And that's all throughout. You go through the entire Old Testament, and there's always a prophet with a king. Mm-hmm. And Jesus stood between the Zealots and the Herodians, those political parties of his day, focused on the way, the truth, and the life in the kingdom of God. And that's what we do. We're there for our legislators, ministering to their personal and spiritual well-being.
Pastor, I spoke with one of our local legislators about your work there, and he just praised it to high. He said it really meant such a big deal to him to know there was somebody there he could counsel with, pray with, as they're dealing with really important, sometimes very controversial issues in their meetings and so forth.
Yeah, I love all of them. We have 150 House representatives. We have 31 senators. Those 181, I consider all my friends. I love them and want to encourage them. But they are under a microscope in many ways. Half the people in the world just don't like them. The other half want to tell them how they're the most wonderful thing in the world, and the truth is probably somewhere in between. And I try to kind of get them into that realness, where they are, who they are, try to keep them grounded and focus on some of the challenges that they face.
Mm-hmm. How can folks support you guys in your work in the various legislatures?
Well, I think each state minister is raising their own support. Mm-hmm. And so certainly to know them and to assist with that. I think praying for them, encouraging them, and financial support are ways that they can do that. And we are in a very unique. We work mostly behind the scene, but God has placed us in positions that are very working with some people have great influence in this nation. And, and God is very much concerned about these leaders and loves them dearly. And, as I tell people often, we do not think of loving our politicians.
No.
But God does.
Yeah, right.
And so he cares for them.
Yeah, and in full disclosure, my son Joel is the minister of the Oklahoma Capitol Commission, and you're heading up to Oklahoma.
Job there. He's doing a wonderful
Absolutely.
job.
Well, that's how I learned about this ministry, and I just appreciate you both for what you're doing, and thanks so much for stopping by Central Texas Living.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it. It's an honor.
When we come back, we're going to do a little bragging on a jam in Central Texas, the Baylor Symphony Orchestra. Stay with us.